In this podcast episode, Rizwan Virk, a computer scientist, video game pioneer, and author, dives deep into the simulation hypothesis, blending perspectives from cutting-edge science, Eastern mysticism, and personal experience. The conversation explores the nature of reality as information, the implications of living in a virtual-like world, the intersection of spiritual traditions and simulation theory, karma and life purpose, coping with challenges, and even ventures into topics like UFOs and the meaning of kindness within this framework. Rizwan Virk introduces two flavors of the simulation hypothesis: the NPC version, where everyone but the player characters are non-player characters controlled by a simulation, and the RPG version, where each individual has a soul or player beyond their avatar in the simulation. He favors the latter, as it aligns more closely with spiritual traditions by allowing for free will and individual agency. Virk explains that the world is best understood not as solid matter, but as informational bits, akin to the rendering processes of a modern video game. He references physicist John Wheeler's phrase, "it from bit," suggesting that everything physical emerges from information processed in ways similar to how a game engine renders only the visible environment around a player's avatar. This leads to parallels with quantum mechanics, such as the observer effect and wave function collapse, which he interprets as optimization techniques for rendering reality only as needed. Drawing from his computer science background and quantum physics, Virk discusses how today's sciences are converging on the view that information, not matter, underpins reality. He brings in examples like quantum entanglement, which defies classical locality and implies instantaneous connections regardless of distance, as further evidence that the universe operates via informational shortcuts, much like shared memory locations in a video game. He also touches on concepts like the Planck length as a physical pixel, suggesting space itself is discrete and quantized in a way analogous to graphical pixels. These physical and computational parallels reveal a universe organized around efficient information processing rather than continuous physical substances. Virk integrates spiritual perspectives, referring to the world as a purposeful hoax or carefully crafted illusion, Maya in Eastern philosophy. He recounts a story from Indian tradition where the sage Narada experiences a full human lifetime as a test of understanding Maya, only to realize it was a constructed illusion. This purposeful illusion serves as a means for consciousness to learn through experience, suffering, and growth. Virk suggests that just as video games are designed to challenge players, reality's challenges function as part of a lessons-based quest system. Failure to complete quests demands repetition, analogous to karmic cycles or reincarnation, supporting an experiential path of awakening. In discussing subjective experience, Virk argues each individual may render their own version of reality, creating variations in perception akin to separate players experiencing a shared game with different views or levels of awareness. He relates this to the varying sensory faculties across species and even within human conditions, such as in autistic savants who access extraordinary cognitive abilities. This multiplicity of perspectives complicates objective reality, suggesting that what we call external reality may be an amalgamation of diverse, entangled subjective experiences, each influenced by the observer's consciousness level or virtual camera position. Virk introduces the concept of the simulation point, a type of singularity where virtual worlds become indistinguishable from physical reality. He paints a trajectory of video game technology advancing from simple pixelated graphics to photorealistic, immersive experiences supported by AI-driven non-player characters, NPCs, that can convincingly simulate human behavior. This technological growth implies that future creators, be they humans or other intelligence, could build simulations so complete that inhabitants would be unaware they reside in simulated worlds. This raises the question, if that future exists, might we already be living within such a simulation? Drawing a parallel to lucid dreaming, Virk highlights Tibetan dream yoga as a spiritual practice of becoming consciously aware within dreams, recognizing their illusory nature. This analogy extends to waking life if the physical world is also a form of sophisticated illusion. He suggests awakening or enlightenment corresponds to achieving lucidity within this waking dream, realizing the fabricated, simulation-like nature of reality while still participating in it. Such awareness deepens agency and shifts perspective, reducing suffering's grip and fostering compassion. Virk elaborates on the concept of karma as a form of stored information or quests within the simulation's database. He references Michael Newton's regression research into life between life states, revealing conscious choice of life circumstances, challenges, and storylines before incarnation. Life, then, becomes a quest selection screen where individuals voluntarily choose specific challenges, including suffering or disability, as opportunities for growth. This challenges common assumptions that easier lives would be universally preferred and explains why hardship may play a meaningful role in personal development and spiritual evolution. Sharing from his own story, Virk describes how a series of health crises forced him out of an entrepreneurial career and into a new phase involving writing and deeper inquiry. During recovery, he experienced visions of Tibetan monks and spiritual teachings guiding him to follow the currents, highlighting how challenges often serve as course corrections in our individual quests. He warns against stubbornness and urges paying close attention to subtle life clues, synchronicities, and internal nudges that align with one's deeper purpose. Virk likens life to a treasure hunt punctuated by clues, intuition, dreams, and synchronicities that guide individuals along their chosen quests. He frames free will as the agency of the player outside the game, making choices amid the constraints and narratives of the simulation. Manifestation, in this view, is less about crafting arbitrary realities and more about navigating the best possible path among various timelines shaped by internal guidance and cosmic intelligence. One of Virk's core missions is to bridge the cultural gap between scientific materialism and spiritual traditions via simulation theory as a shared metaphor. Just as previous generations used the technology of their time, film projectors for Yogananda, books and angels in Abrahamic faiths, today's metaphors draw from video games and information theory. He stresses that whether simulation theory is taken literally or metaphorically, it provides a framework for making sense of ancient mystical experiences, near-death phenomena, and modern scientific discoveries as facets of the same underlying truth. Virk explores how various traditions describe an accounting of deeds and karma, like the Book of Life or Scrolls of Karma, which parallel modern ideas of a recorded log or database governing reincarnation and spiritual adjudication. The life review, common in near-death experience testimonies, involves revisiting one's actions empathetically from the perspective of others, fostering accountability and growth. Virk connects this to contemporary virtual reality technologies that enable replaying experiences from different viewpoints, suggesting life operates similarly. Recognizing the limits and biases of individual perception, Virk encourages cultivating empathy and metacognition, including the capacity to take others' perspectives. This resonates with Eastern practices that expand the sense of self beyond ego, dissolving rigid subject-object divisions. Relating this to relationships, he underscores the importance of compassion and pattern recognition to break cycles of harmful behavior, mirroring the video game analogy where incomplete quests must be replayed until mastered. On the subject of UFOs and extraterrestrials, Virk blends simulation ideas and metaphysical interpretation, proposing that these phenomena could represent avatars or rendered elements appearing in the simulation, with some beings possibly interdimensional. He links historical cultural motifs, fairies, jinn, angels, to entities that interact intermittently with physical reality, adapting their appearance to prevailing cultural frameworks. This approach reframes alien encounters as potentially variegated expressions of consciousness interacting with or within the simulation. The conversation turns to moral imperatives, with Virk emphasizing that the architecture of the simulation itself enforces kindness by virtue of its design and potential for lessons. While free will allows unkindness and suffering, these experiences offer the opportunity for learning and awakening. He advocates using awareness of the life review and karmic consequences to foster empathy and improve interpersonal conduct, while recognizing the necessity of free will to create meaningful choices. Reflecting on the tension between scientific skepticism and spiritual experience, Virk calls for epistemic humility and a balanced approach that neither dismisses extraordinary claims outright nor accepts them uncritically. He appreciates the value of subjective, mystical experiences as valid data points while maintaining the scientific principle of repeatability and evidence. This discernment helps navigate the space where mythos meets logos, allowing a richer, more nuanced understanding of reality. Virk discusses how exoteric religious teachings often evolve from mystics' efforts to communicate ineffable experiences in culturally accessible metaphors. Over time, rigid dogma and institutionalization can obscure the original experiential core, prompting some to turn to alternative spiritual paths or atheism. He finds in simulation theory a promising bridge that honors both ancient wisdom and modern scientific insights, giving fresh relevance to religious metaphors and mystical traditions. Returning to personal growth, Virk emphasizes the importance of self-knowledge and following the activities or quests one is naturally drawn to, as these inclinations reflect the storylines and karmic patterns chosen before incarnation. He warns against rushing manifestation or trying to force outcomes misaligned with one's character or life purpose. Success and fulfillment come from playing the life game authentically, acknowledging both lessons and contributions. Virk suggests applying the framework of life reviews not just at death but daily, using reflection and empathy to evaluate one's actions and their ripple effects on others. This microcosm of spiritual practice promotes progress towards kindness and self-awareness, improving mental health and complicity in the collective simulation. He encourages people to view adversity as integral to the quest rather than merely misfortune, fostering resilience and meaning. Addressing what lies outside the simulation, Virk defers definitive answers, but speculates that players or souls exist in a connected but less physical realm from which the simulation emerges. He likens this to balls of light collectively participating in a shared game, each with some degree of influence over the rendered world, while coordinated at higher levels of consciousness. Listeners can explore Virk's ideas further through his website, social media, and his books, including The Simulation Hypothesis and the upcoming The Zen Entrepreneur in the Dream, which continues the exploration of business challenges as spiritual quests.